Zora Neale Hurston. Zora was born and reared in Eatonville, Florida, the first black township to be incorporated in the United States. For years, misled by Hurston herself, scholars set the year of her birth as 1901, when in fact she was born a decade earlier in 1891. Eatonville was an extraordinary place by any reckoning and took on an almost mythic quality in the fiction and autobiographical writings. In her view, the absence of whites not only kept Eatonville free from racism, but also freed blacks to express themselves without reservation. She was also proud of her father's crucial role as mayor of the lawgiver of the town. Hurston arrived in NYC right in step with the Harlem Renaissance. Yet, as much as she belonged to this movement, she, as a black woman, an artist, and a combination of things that didn't match up with 1920s America. She was a storyteller in the folk sense and an intellectual in the academic sense. She was a woman with formal education and the audacity to wear slacks and smoke. Her gift of imagination and her way with language were evident in all that she did, on paper and in the documentary films she made and the theater she produced. She remained a free spirit. Mules and Men contains many types of tales, including fanciful myths devised to explain mysteries of nature and life, imaginative stories and anecdotes that condemn America's injustice toward blacks. A Fanciful Myth by Zeal North Hurston. Christ was walking along one day with all his disciples, and he said, "We're going for a walk today. Everybody pick up a rock and come along." So everybody got themselves a nice big rock, except Peter. He was lazy, so he picked up a little bit of a pebble and dropped it in his side pocket and came along. Well, they walked all day, and he and the other 11 disciples and changed the rocks from one arm to the other, except Peter, toting them. Long toward sundown, and come along the Sea of Galilee, Jesus told him, "Well, let's fish a while. Cast your nets right over there." They done like he told them and caught a big mess of fish. Then they cooked them, and Christ said, "Now y'all bring up your rocks." So they brought their rocks, and Christ turned them into bread. And they all had plenty to eat with their fish, except Peter. He couldn't hardly make a mouthful off the little bit of bread he had, and he didn't like that one bit. 2 or 3 days after that, Christ went outdoors and looked up at the sky and says, "We're going for another walk today. Everybody get yourself a rock and come along." They all picked up a rock apiece and were ready to go, all except Peter. He went and tore down half a mountain. It was so big, he couldn't move it with his hands. He had to take a pinch bar and move it. All day long, they walked and Christ talked with his disciples. And Peter, sweating and straining with that big rock of his. Way long evening, Christ come up under a big tree and sat down and called his disciples around him. He said, "Now everybody bring up your rocks." So everybody brought theirs except Peter. Peter was about a mile down the road punching that half a mountain he was bringing. So Christ waited till he got there he looked at all the rocks of the 11 disciples, and when he sees that big rock, that big rock mountain Peter had, he got up and got over to it and walked up to it and put one foot up on it and said, "Why, Peter, this is a fine rock you got here. It's a noble rock. And Peter, on this rock, I'm going to build my church." Peter says, "No, you ain't neither. You won't build no church or church house on this rock. You're going to turn it into bread." Christ knew that Peter meant the thing and he turned to the hillside into bread. That mountain of bread was what fed the 5,000. He took them other 11 rocks and glued them together and built his church on that. And that's how come the Christian church is split up into so many different kinds. Because he built it on pieced up rock. Let the church roll on. 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 If a member of the church, and he won't do right, tell me what we gonna do. Let the church roll on.
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 Let the church roll on. Let the church roll on.